Welcome to Baier Rail. In this video we will show you how the patented O-ring seal design of the Baier single bolt manway is different and how it achieves its sealing effectiveness with just one bolt and minimal torque. Also, how we have eliminated the need to measure the torque applied to the single bolt for closure and how over-torquing the single bolt ram on closure can cause problems in the process to open the hatch. Every year, countless tank car shipments transit the North American rail systems. With this activity, non-accidental releases, or NARs, remain an ongoing issue facing the industry, leading to fines and potential environmental liability when transporting hazardous material. In response, the industry spends millions of dollars on training, compliance, and maintenance of multi-bolt manways. Traditional multi-bolt manways use flat gaskets made from a variety of materials and composites, but on all flat gaskets the seal is achieved the same way, torquing the bolt to create even clamping pressure and squeeze the gasket. This creates direct pressure between the sealing lip of the nozzle and the soft material of the flat gasket in the cover. Instinct tells us that applying more pressure will create a better seal. However, over-tightening can cause distortions in the cover and potentially cause damage to the seal and bolts. This is why multi-bolt manway operators are instructed to apply specific torque values to bolts and to tighten bolts in a specific sequence and pattern, an instruction that is often overlooked, causing the industry time and money in replacing gaskets, fines from NARs, and cars being removed from service. With the Baier single bolt manway, the concept that more torque leads to a better seal is incorrect. The Baier manway seal works differently. Baier's patented sealing system is designed to achieve its highly effective seal using an O-ring that becomes contained within the vertical sidewalls of the nozzle's interior. On the Baier manway, the single bolt is only used to drive the cover and the O-ring into the nozzle. The seal is naturally created by the lateral engagement between the nozzle's sidewall and our specially designed O-ring. Unlike multi-bolt manways, the pressure applied to the ram does not actually increase compression of the O-ring. It only serves to hold the cover in place and maintain the position of the O-ring as the resiliency of the O-ring material maintains the seal. Even if pressure accumulates inside the tank, the cover remains held in place by the ram while the O-ring changes shape and creates even more sealing surface contact. Since the Baier single bolt manway is designed such that its single bolt or ram is not used to apply additional direct pressure on the sealing surface, handheld tools can always be used to open and close the unit. The torque applied to the ram should never exceed 200 foot-pounds. Applying more than this level of torque will result in over-tightening. The Baier single bolt manway is designed to easily operate with hand tools. Therefore, we strongly recommend not using electric or pneumatic impact tools because of their capacity to easily apply more than the 200 foot-pounds of torque, which can result in over-tightening. Later in this video, we will explain how using these tools can easily cause over-tightening and why over-tightening can cause problems. No matter which method you choose, understand that any over-tightening, even if using hand tools, can create difficulties for the next person trying to open the manway. In all cases, follow all safety guidelines and procedures in place at your facility. With the cover installed properly, the weight of the cover and strongback should be fully supported by the spring. The cover assembly should float, being held just above the closed position and supported by the spring. Firmly press down on the cover handle to close the cover. With downward pressure still applied, pull the T-handle pin and rotate the strongback clockwise. When the pin is released, it should fall into the hole on the ring and prevent the strongback from rotating. The strongback is now secure and the claw is in place under the lip of the nozzle, ready to support the pressure of the ram driving the engagement of the cover and O-ring into the nozzle. With a 3/4 inch socket wrench, insert the square driver into the receiver on the ram. Rotate the ram clockwise. The threads will gradually apply downward force to the cover, pushing against the strongback, driving the cover and O-ring down with even pressure. The O-ring will slide on the tapered edge of the nozzle, allowing the cover to be centered within the circumference of the nozzle and compressing the O-ring. Once the O-ring has passed the tapered part of the nozzle, it creates a firm seal with the vertical sidewalls. Continue to turn the ram until the cover is fully seated, which is the point at which the ram stops rotating freely, and the metal-to-metal contact of the cover and nozzle meet. The last step is to apply a single pull on the wrench to compress the threads. Torque in excess of 200 foot-pounds should never be applied. Once the manway's cap is properly closed, the manway is now fully closed and properly sealed. The seal of the Baier Manway is achieved by the surface of the soft Teflon material of the O-ring's outer jacket and its internal resilient core, naturally pressing out against the smooth interior vertical circumference of the stainless steel nozzle surface. This nozzle contact surface needs to be clean and without any significant gouges. This is why we always recommend taking extra care to ensure that the sealing surface of the nozzle is not damaged during installation or filling. Special protection jackets for the Baier single bolt manway are shipped with the units and should remain in place while installing. These jackets or other protections should also be used when servicing or cleaning the tank cars. It is also critical that you regularly inspect your O-rings for nicks and cracks to ensure consistent contact around the circumference of the nozzle. Defects, damage, or wear to the O-ring or nozzle can lead to leaking seals. Even minor deformations caused by gouges in the nozzle can create dimples or scratches that can affect sealing over time. The Baier O-ring is designed for repeated duty cycles, but repeated compression, friction, and material degradation will require the O-rings to eventually need to be replaced. As we have previously stated, additional tightening or applying additional torque to the Baier single bolt manway does not increase the integrity of the seal. The first step to resolving sealing issues is to replace the O-ring using the recommended tools and methods as detailed in Baier's Installation, Maintenance, and Operations Manual. Now let's review why we strongly recommend to not use impact tools to close the manway cover. When using a hand tool, the operator can feel the natural point when the cover is closed. The resistance of the ram should be smooth and even as the ram drives the cover to closure, as indicated by the metal of the cover meeting with the metal of the nozzle. Continuing to turn the ram past this point increases the torque exponentially and does nothing to improve the seal. Operators using impact tools and relying on visual indicators such as when the ram stops rotating can easily exceed the natural closing point and result in over-torquing or over-tightening of the manway system. Impact tools can easily apply torque far greater than the limit of 200 foot-pounds. If this over-tightened state occurs, the manway can be extremely difficult to be opened, even if an operator is using similar impact tools to open. Using hand tools to close the manway cover reduces the chance of an operator over-tightening the manway. While it is uncommon for a closing operator using hand tools to be able to apply forces beyond the 200 foot-pound limit, it is still possible. While it should only take about 100 foot-pounds to close the manway cover, 200 foot-pounds is about the maximum amount of torque a person can comfortably apply. An opening operator using hand tools should always be able to open the manway if properly closed using less than the maximum limit of 200 foot-pounds of torque. When closed using the proper amount of force, a seal will be achieved, and the manway will not loosen in transit because of the product's design. Over-torquing the manway will likely not damage the unit, but as described above, it could make it difficult for operators to open the unit. Workplace limits or rules at the unloading facility could prevent workers from using pneumatic or electric impact tools to open an over-tightened unit. As well, worker safety protocols typically prevent operators from using cheater bars and other non-standard methods to apply by hand the torque needed to open an over-tightened unit. This can lead to problems or delays unloading the car. The consequences of not understanding and following the recommended closing method and the torque limitations can cause significant negative impact to tank car loading and unloading operations down the line. For these reasons, Baier Rail strongly recommends not using impact tools of any kind while operating the Baier Manway. If an operator chooses to use an impact tool to tighten despite this recommendation, they need to be extremely careful not to over-tighten the manway. The O-ring will make the seal without over-tightening. Over-tightening will not result in a better seal, so never tighten beyond 200 foot-pounds. If you are having to apply extreme force to close the manway, This is an indication that something is wrong, and you should back off the ram to the open position, fully open the cover, and begin again. If the ram is still difficult to turn, it may need to be serviced or replaced. See the Baier Manway cover assembly and disassembly procedure. As mentioned previously, this product was designed so that the ram will not loosen in transit. This is not related to the amount of torque applied to the ram. The Baier Manway has a unique cap assembly that, when closed properly and its locking pin inserted, prevents the ram from loosening. The cap will only fully close if the Manway cover is fully closed. Once the ram is down and the cover is fully closed, the cap assembly can be rotated by hand to allow the protruding notch in the cap assembly to fall into a receiver hole on the top of the ram. It is this notch which prevents the ram from backdriving and the seal being disrupted. After the cap is properly closed and the locking pin is installed, you know the Manway is fully closed. Cargo seal tags can be affixed to the single secure locking point to ensure the security of the cargo. The cover cannot be opened without releasing the cap. After watching this video, operators should understand the following points about the Baier single bolt Manway. Over-torquing is not recommended, and that applying torque over the recommended limits does not equate to a better seal. The ram should be tightened as previously described, and more than 200 foot-pounds of torque should never be applied. Over-tightening can make it difficult for the next operator to open. Pay careful attention to ensure the O-ring and the sealing surfaces remain clean and free from damage and debris. Make sure the cap is fully closed and locked to prevent backdriving during transport. Always maintain the unit according to Baier's Installation, Maintenance, and Operations Manual. In addition to this video, please thoroughly review and follow the instructions in the Installation, Maintenance, and Operations Manual for the Baier Rail Single Bolt Manway, located within the Documents section of Baier Rail's website at www.baierrail.com/documents. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube for any updates. Visit www.baierrail.com for ways to contact us with questions.